A ceasefire meant to end a war didn't survive 2 days. Early Thursday, the United States launched fresh airstrikes on Iran, hitting roughly 90 targets. Within hours, Iran fired back, not at America directly, but at 3 of its neighbors: Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar. Oil spiked, markets dropped, and President Trump stood on a NATO stage and declared the truce over. To understand why this matters, rewind a few weeks. The US and Iran had been operating under an interim ceasefire, a fragile pause meant to stop direct strikes while negotiations continued over Iran's nuclear program and regional proxy activity. It was never a peace deal, just a truce. Both sides kept their forces postured, and few expected it to hold long. Iran had already been under renewed US oil sanctions, reimposed in early July. The truce was less a resolution and more a countdown clock. On July 9th, US Central Command confirmed strikes on around 90 targets inside Iran, a significant escalation from earlier, more limited operations. Iran's Revolutionary Guard responded almost immediately, claiming attacks on US-aligned Gulf states. Bahrain and Kuwait were hit directly, with Qatar also drawn into the crossfire. This is a notable shift in Iranian strategy. Rather than striking US assets directly, Tehran targeted the Gulf Arab states hosting American military infrastructure, spreading the risk and the blame across the region. Egypt, Qatar, Jordan, and Kuwait issued a joint statement within hours, strongly condemning Iran's attacks as a flagrant violation of Gulf state sovereignty, a sign that even Iran's regional neighbors, several of whom maintain their own complicated relationships with Washington, are unwilling to absorb this kind of blowback quietly. This isn't just a Middle East story, it's a global economy story. Brent crude settled 5.2% higher at $78.02 a barrel, and WTI crude rose to $73.52, reviving the energy inflation fear that's shadowed markets through 2026. That matters because the Gulf, and specifically the Strait of Hormuz, is one of the world's most critical oil choke points. Even the threat of disruption there ripples into gas prices, shipping costs, and inflation readings from Detroit to Dusseldorf. U.S. markets felt it immediately. The Dow shed 577 points, while the Nasdaq stayed barely positive on chip sector strength. Let's put this in concrete terms. Around 90 targets struck inside Iran in a single wave, a 5.2% single-day jump in Brent crude, pushing it past $78 a barrel. 4 separate governments, Egypt, Qatar, Jordan, and Kuwait, issued formal condemnations within roughly 24 hours. And the Dow's 577-point drop shows this isn't confined to oil traders. It's moving broad market indices tied to millions of retirement accounts. This all landed in the same week as a separate but connected story. At the NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey, President Trump told Ukrainian President Zelensky that the US would license Ukraine to manufacture its own Patriot air defense missiles, a major shift after years of Ukraine requesting and often being denied that capability. It's a reminder that Washington is now managing 2 live, high-stakes fronts simultaneously: an active shooting war in the Gulf and a grinding one in Eastern Europe, both requiring missiles, money, and political capital at the same time. Trump has said he'd still allow negotiations to continue even as he called the interim agreement over, which is a telling contradiction. It suggests neither side may want a full-scale, open-ended war, even as both demonstrate they're willing to escalate to make a point. Watch 3 things going forward: whether Gulf states like Bahrain and Kuwait request direct US military reinforcement, whether oil prices keep climbing toward the $80 mark that tends to spook central banks, and whether this ceasefire gets renegotiated within days, as fragile truces in this conflict have before, or whether this marks a genuine turn toward sustained, wider war. A truce is only as strong as both sides' patience, and in the Gulf this week, that patience lasted less than 48 hours.